Hi, this is Conexion, and I am your host, Nidia Simone. Let's get started. Today, we're talking about skin bleaching in the Caribbean and Afro-Latinx community. One of our own is famous for skin bleaching, Sammy Sosa. He went from dark, chocolate, fine, handsome, to ghostly and ghastly. Personally, with the skin bleaching, I feel like it's just an attempt to fit into like this white supremacist narrative and try to make like the macroaggressions a little bit easier. I don't think it works in most cases, but I do think it could work if, depending on how you do it. But yeah, I think it's a big problem in our community, not only in the United States, but also abroad.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it has a lot to do with like media and what the standard of beauty is constantly pushed. The closer you are to white, the closer you are to right. If you're, light-skinned women a lot of times get a lot of praise, and even men, and there's a whole lot of there's just like a whole standard of beauty conversation, and I can understand why they would want to be closer to that. It would make your life a lot easier. But also it's like, there's something to be said for having pride. There's something to be said for being proud of who you are, being proud of where you come from. So it's like, it's kind of a double-edged sword in that way. So yeah, obviously I don't agree. I've never met anybody who bleaches, and I'm not personally super familiar with like a lot of people who bleach, but I know that it is a problem, because I know that like when I was younger, like if I was in the sun for too long, like people would tell me, oh, don't be in the sun for too long, or you're gonna get too dark, or just kind of a general colorist conversation that we've always had. So, I think it definitely stems from that. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I think it's important because to understand that skin bleaching is $1 billion industry. It's a lot of money. Like India alone went through it said 25 tons of skin bleaching cream in 2012 from the Boston Globe, which is crazy.
Wow.
But
obviously 25 tons.
258 tons of skin bleaching cream in 2020.
Wow.
2012, excuse me. And that's like in India alone. The Nigeria, they have it says Lagos, Nigeria, 75% of the residents or something like that. It's very potent, obviously, in different parts of the country. Different parts of the world. But also in Latin America, we have to think about also survival purposes. A lot of people use it to get jobs. That famous documentary came out about Jamaica skin bleaching.
Yeah, I saw that.
And where they have these guys saying, literally, I need this to live. I need this to get a job. So that was something we have to think about. Actually, my friend who is from Sao Paulo in Brazil, his father, he talks about it all the time. His father is my color, and he skin bleaches. His father is very at a point where he's a self-made black Brazilian man who has felt he's above race now and all of this stuff like that, but he has all of this anti-blackness compacted within him. My friend is very racially ambiguous, Latinx looking, but his father is black like me. So he is talking about how his father had a little mark, and the doctor prescribed some cream, but now he uses it everywhere, all over his body. He won't go out in the sun, and there's actual real repercussions to looking visibly black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes, there's people are taking the risk of getting cancer, of getting ulcers and all kinds of stuff on their bodies and potentially dying, because it's literally, sometimes maybe they feel like it is unsafe to be black or in their region, or they're just trying to progress. So, I told my friend, come with sensitivity to your father, because of his lack of privilege, or his lack of, we all are different on the colorism scale, right? We all have this thing that we're trying to negotiate our blackness with society, and literally trying to fucking live, trying to survive. So it's seen a lot of times as a survival mechanism, also in different countries like India and stuff like that. And even in Guyana, there's a lot of Indian population there too, that people talk about they skin bleach and stuff like that. And I've met a lot of Indo-Guyanese that are more on the colorist scale. Don't come for me, but I've met some that are very into like the color, like you know what I mean. They're like, oh, that person is, you know what I'm saying. So they are probably more known for the skin bleaching. I haven't met many black guys that skin bleach from my experience, but I know that I live in Flatbush. I used to live in Flatbush. Okay, when I used to live there, I was like, everybody was bleaching their skin that was like Jamaican or that was like some Haitians, but mostly it was like a lot of like people that I knew were Jamaican were skin bleaching. I don't think it's just Jamaicans. I think it's a lot of Caribbeans. But I'm just saying, I was just like, oh my God, like what I've never seen. I was like, what is going on? Like, you look crazy, sis. But like it's in the culture, and I don't know how we self-heal from that. I guess we have to really unpack it, but yeah.
Well, I think it's more like it's not about necessarily unpacking, but it's a coping mechanism. You know, like that's how we're coping with living in, you know, such a dangerous and violent society, being black people. Because I remember listening to one of my friends, and she's really hard on her sister. She's trying to be white, so acting white, based on like how she talks and like the people she surrounds herself with, and blah blah blah. But I'm like, look at where y'all live. Like, she doesn't have a choice. What if this is a coping mechanism that is helping her to deal with this reality? You know, and everybody does that differently. Like, and some of you is like, oh, I'll just be a rebel and be so black. And some people are like, no, I'm just gonna like figure out how to survive here. And this is how I'm surviving. So I feel like sometimes we give people grace, but when it comes to the skin bleaching thing, like, you're literally killing yourselves. And I also feel like we need to create environments where people don't feel like they have to do that. Right. Because if people felt like their blackness was accepted and you could get a job and you could get a partner and you could go to school and nobody's going to act crazy, they wouldn't do it. Right. Because they're doing it for, like, real reasons. I knew a young woman in LA who's an actress, and she's ethnically ambiguous, and she was, I think, biracial. And she told me about her, like, best friend who started skin bleaching, and now she's getting jobs. Like acting and modeling jobs, and it's like, well, how do you say don't do that? Don't do that.
Literally able to
Don't do that thing that works.
Don't do that thing that makes you $1,500 a job. Like, you know, like don't do that thing that like pays your bills. Like what? Like it's like really, it's like a hard conversation.
Yeah. So, and that's totally valid. So my response to that, because I'm trying to be more like solution oriented as opposed to like, and of course we have to talk about the problem and understand the problem, but also simultaneously try to come at some solutions. So I feel like a solution to that would be to have our own establishments, to try to work on having our own structures so that we don't have to answer to anybody else, so that we don't have to feel like we're in their space and now we have to then accommodate. If we have our own spaces, then we don't have to feel like that pressure. So I think that's one possible.
Right.
We do, and it's because we've, you know, ingested things that have been pushed upon us in every which way when it comes to the music, and it comes to they're glorifying certain type of features when it comes to TV, when it comes to, you know, every which way we're getting. As soon as we walk out here, we might see a magazine. I mean, like, it's just everywhere. It's ubiquitous, especially in major cities like New York and LA. So I feel like owning our own companies and being entrepreneurs and like kind of having our own structures would be a great way to kind of, you know, work towards that. And obviously that's a little bit of like a pie in the sky. Like that's obviously we're working towards, but I mean, long term, that would be a great solution. That's one. And then also, and this just kind of just came to me, but this is a question to pose to the group. What do you think is the relationship between like perming your hair and bleaching?
People like, so when people get a perm, I feel like a lot of people are just like, oh, well, it's just hair. And it's just like, nah, they're putting it down to the root. You know what I'm saying? That's on your scalp. People have scabs and chemical burns. And there was this study that came out, I want to say, like, right when the natural hair movement, like, first started to, like, pick up. So back, I want to say, around, like, 2007-ish. Around that time, there was, like, a study or some sort of documentary. Something came out, and they showed somebody who had passed away who had habitually permed their hair. And there's, like, a layer underneath your skin, like above your scalp, above your skull, of like stuff, like
Like from the chemicals? Like
Yes, from the chemicals. Like, I don't know if it was green because of how how they took the picture or whatever, but it was like this green layer of like jelly stuff sitting on top of the skull because that is the reaction inside of your body from perming your hair. And people are allergic. You know what I'm saying? Like you sit there from when some people got their first perm at 2 years old.
Yeah.
2 years old. It's like we're talking about like people who are putting their children, their young kids who don't want to sit to get their hair done anyway, but now you're putting something on their scalp that's going to burn. It smells, you know what I'm saying? It got formaldehyde in it, all types of stuff.
And that's the joke. It's like, if it's burning, then you're good. Then it's working. Like
That's how you know it's done, right?
If it's burning, it's working.
When you do a touch-up.
And I used to think that was normal.
Right, but because it's normalized, just like how skin bleaching in a lot of places is normalized. And like, you know, there's all the caution goes to the wind because you're just thinking about the outcome. Like, if I perm my 6-year-old's hair, is their first grade teacher going to treat them better? Right. You know? And to me, it is the same. To me, skin bleaching and perming your hair, there's no difference. You are risking your health for, you know, an aesthetic that will make your life easier. And I don't fault anybody because it's true. Doing those things work. It does give you access to different opportunities. It does make you more secure in your situation. There are some places where, I'm sure all the places where people skin bleach, you know, a lot, this is the case, but there are some places where like it's really, you know, emphasized. But where if you are darker skinned, you're not seen. Like, you're not seen. When you step outside the door, you're not seen. Yeah. Any jobs you have, you're in the back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're in the basement. You're doing the nitty-gritty, dirty labor, dirty work that nobody else wants to do because that is what is available for you. And I can say now, you know, I've never had a perm. I'll never, you know, bleach my skin. But I don't know what I would do if I was in that situation, if my kids were in that situation. You know what I'm saying? If I knew that putting a perm in my 7-year-old's hair or hot combing them to death, you know what I'm saying? And what makes me saddest about it and feel most like hopeless about it, and I don't know if people who do it feel hopeless, like this is all that they have to do, like it's because the alternative is trauma. The alternative is all the abuse that, you know what I'm saying? The alternative is hardship. Yeah. And so I accept myself for who I am because that your notion of who you are is influenced by the society that you're in. So when they do accept that, if they were to accept that, what is it that they would be accepting, right? Mm-hmm. So like as far as like solutions, I literally have no idea where we would even start because I feel like you just have to raise your children to be proud of themselves, to be accepting, to understand where those notions came from in the first place, why they're proliferated the way they are. Who is it benefiting and why? You know what I'm saying? Break down all the systems that contribute to this continuing and starting in the first place. But
because Black women outbuy beauty products, we spend money on everything from gel to humidity spray to this to that to
But if the adults, if the parents, if the older generation, we're still working through these things, and as widespread as, you know, the natural movement is, like, it's not. So if we are still working through it, how are our children going to work through it?
I have a question. I don't have anyone that I know that skin bleaches or anything like that, and of course I'm not like too aware of what happens in other countries, but I'm thinking that the only possible difference that there might be is that skin bleaching, again, I'm not sure, I feel like it's more perpetuated and promoted by media and like the higher ups, whereas like perming your hair, like people that are directly in contact with you will literally tell you, oh, you need to perm your hair. 100%. So that's the only difference I could possibly distinguish between the two, is that you're being told by people you love and people that you're not good enough, you need to do this to alter yourself, whereas the big man is the one that's telling you need to alter your skin. They're not. I'm not sure if people like actually go around telling people that about their skin color.
It depends because
like, here, use this bleaching cream.
It depends because in some countries it's like the norm to skin bleach. Like,
Right,
in
exactly.
There's like, you have to be careful in some places. Like even in some neighborhoods you go to with a population that bleaches a lot, they have like these little creams and stuff. And even my homegirl, she's what is she, Lebanese, Palestinian? She says she has to be careful when she goes to, I can't remember, but whatever she was, because everything had lotion. All these creams had like
They like downplay
bleaching.
They downplay it. They'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is just a lotion to make your skin even."
And
or
she didn't
something
even
like
know.
that.
She was like, "What the hell?" So it was just like so much. Yeah. It's
So,
very normalized.
I would have to disagree with you because I think that like it's different. Like you have to be in that community to know that it's happening.
Right.
And for me, like I was like, Black people in America, we not doing that stuff.
Right.
And then I started to look at the different aisles. Because usually when you go to like, the stores, the beauty supply store, you go for the stuff that you get all the time, personally. And then I was like, let me look. I was like, these bleach cream.
I have seen them.
bleach
Yeah.
Yes.
So if
I thought
they're
it was normal cream. It
yes,
was bleach cream.
all over. So in all of these Black communities. So the thing is, like, if you're not looking for it, you're not gonna find it.
Right,
But the
right.
thing is, like,
It's
people
there.
are doing it, and they would not be there if they weren't selling. You know.
and they're always stocked, so people are using them, and because they're not gonna stop ordering them because people are buying them. But also, in terms of like nobody is saying you need to go bleach your skin. That's what stay out the sun means.
Right.
That's what don't let your daughter go outside so much means. That's when you're walking around with umbrellas on a sunny day because ain't no clouds. That's what that means.
Yes.
That's what that means.
Right.
Well, you know what? The thing is, it comes